Hi and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to talk about spirit guides and how you can connect to your spirit guide. Now, with this subject, there is an awful lot of misconceptions and nonsense out there. You can look at the internet and look at videos, and there's absolute, madness, crackpot stuff about this. So hopefully I can give a little bit of clarity about this, and I'm basically coming to you from the idea of spiritualism. Now, spiritualism's been around a long time. I've been working as a medium within spiritualism most of my life, and we kind of, I think, is a credible understanding of what happens with the spirit communicators, because many mediums have worked together with this. Spiritualism has taken great pains to push out all the nonsense over the years, and most of the mediums you'll find have a pretty close understanding, a similar understanding of what mediumship is, what spirit communication is, and of course many of the fantastic communications that have come through spiritualism over the years through the spirit guides such as Silver Birch and Red Cloud and so on. But I'll tell you a bit more about that later. So first up, what are spirit guides? Now, a spirit helps the medium. So in my understanding of this, a spirit guide is the person and people on the spirit world, the spirit people who are helping the medium with their communications. That's why we get the spirit guides. The mediums get spirit guides not because we're better people or more advanced people or because we need special help or anything like that. They come to us because they want to help us to prove to others that the spirit world is real. And the spirit world is extremely organized. So when they make the connection with us, we don't usually just get a spirit guide. We get a whole collection of spirit guides who are there helping to organize the medium's work. And this particularly comes important when the medium goes out and starts talking to a public audience. So I might work within spiritualism, I might have worked on television, or I might work with a big theatre audience. And when that happens, the spirit guides come in close to me, firstly to protect me, to help to keep any intruding entities out, but also to help organise that huge mass of spirits that are clambering to talk to the medium, and the people's thoughts that are being projected to the medium, come to me, come to me, come to me. You get all this input, because thoughts are things, they fly out to the medium. So that we're protected on the one hand, but also it's filtered. So the spirit people help to connect to the right person at the right time for the right recipient in the audience. So it becomes very important. And also they have other roles, such as there will be guides there that will help us to maybe make the audience laugh a bit, and might find the funny stories in the audience. I've got one spirit guide that always finds any strange stories about false teeth, and I know that guide's working with me because I start having to give these crazy stories about false teeth, which always turn out to be correct. I'll talk about this another time, but they give great evidence and proof. And then there's other guides that might be there to help connect with children that are specialised in that. Other guides that might help with healing. I've had a cold, so I need one of them at the moment. And so all the guides have these different roles. They might help young people, they might help people that have had suicides, and so forth. They've got connections that help us to hone down our spirit communications, to help us get the evidence, the proof, to prove that life continues after death, and that's their function. Now, we also talk about another type of guide, which would be called the Doorkeeper, which everybody has. That is a spirit helper that guides us into this life and guides us out again. They're there at the time of our birth, and they're there at the time of our death. This is often connected with the idea that some talk about like a guardian angel. So we have this other spirit helper there that helps us with that, and that's usually considered as being one person, neither male nor female. So we're talking more perhaps on an angelic level there. And then finally, I feel there's another type of spirit guide that comes through, which is like the unconscious mind. Now, I'm not dismissing this, because this is just as important, because it's the force of the intuition within the unconscious mind. So I'm thinking particularly about the psychologist Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychologist, who explored in the early days of the development of psychology the idea of the unconscious mind, you know. And in the unconscious, he discovered these things called archetypes, like really powerful symbols that are universal and are in every race and religion and every nation, you know. There's always these same symbols that come out, very powerful archetypal symbols like the sea, or like the fire, or like the tree, and like even the saviour images and things. But there's also this idea of the guide that comes up, the inner guide, the inner helper. And in Carl Jung's life, he had this spirit guide that appeared in his dreams, which we called Philemon, who was a man who was a very strange mythical sort of being with wings like a kingfisher. He drew pictures of him in his notebooks, actually. And this guide kind of took on a life of his own, you know. And when he communicated to Carl Jung, for example, on one instance, Carl Jung saw him with the kingfisher wings, and then found a dead kingfisher the next day in a place where kingfishers don't live. So he kind of got proof of kind of the reality of this. Now, whether Jung was in touch with the spirit world or not, but Jung considered it as being a psychic force within himself, a development of his own psyche, a disassociated part of himself in a way, that was his higher self in a way guiding him. So sometimes I think that when people talk about their guides, and particularly if these guides are really grandiose type of images and all full of tons and tons of fantasies, you know, Egyptians and feathered things and creatures from other worlds, you know, and they talk about guides like this, I think that's coming from the unconscious mind. And I'm not to say it's negative, because that's helping their intuition, helping them with the process of becoming a whole human being. So I'm just putting that out there as a possible idea, but I want to go back now to the basic ideas of spirit guides and mediums. Who has spirit guides? Now, ordinary people have spirit guides, but not in the same way that a medium does. A medium has all these people that are specialising in the spirit world, helping with his work, or his or her work, to prove life after death. But ordinary people all have spirit guides, because your spirit guides would be the people that you loved that have passed over into the spirit world. Because you imagine if you went to the spirit world and you saw your children back on earth, you'd want to help, wouldn't you? And you saw others suffering, you'd want to help. So often the spirit people come back in a spirit of love to try to help us and guide our unconscious mind. So they influence our thoughts in the background. Sometimes they give us real signs and synchronicities and symbols to show that they're around us. But most of the time it comes through a subtle blending of their thoughts with ours. It's like you might feel like a memory of them come back into your mind. And with that memory, a kind of an atmosphere and a sense of presence, and then maybe even a thought and some words come to mind. That could be your connection already with those you love in spirit, who are helping to guide you. So our loved ones are our spirit guides. And just because I work as a medium doesn't mean to say that I don't also have that, because within my own work I often will feel the presence of people around me who I know in spirit. And this is where it becomes important, because you'll find that you can get a really strong connection and evidence too, because they work with me when I'm giving proof of life after death. One person, for example, Vi Kipling, who used to work with me a lot with my website and with a lot of my spiritual work, still connects with me from the spirit side and tells me off sometimes and gives me information. So, you know, you don't necessarily have an American Indian out there telling you what to do or whatever. Your people you know will often the first people that will connect with you with your spiritual work and will give just as important valid information. Now, also, who else has spirit guides? Mediums, of course, and I've talked about that already, but the mediums guides are there basically to help us with the spiritual work, and I won't go over that again, but I might talk a bit more about that later. But also there's a lot of the people that want to connect with the spirit world and want guides, want guidance, want to be told what to do. How do I get through this difficult situation? Now, that was often the case when your spirit helpers will come in the form of the people you know. But also the very highly advanced spiritual beings in this world, the gurus, the great teachers, the saints, they can often connect with a person through your dreams. I have had dreams, for example, of Sathya Sai Baba, and I believe those dreams are absolutely 100% real, and they've turned out to be absolutely flawless in the things that I've been told. Also, I've recently become very interested in Sharavana Baba, another who I wrote in my book, God is Everywhere. Here's a copy of it. I've got it there, yes. Go and read this one, actually. God is Everywhere. That's on my website. I can't mention it. We'll talk it without mentioning it. But Sharavana was a very interesting character who sometimes appears in people's dreams. And I've seen him say to somebody, I was in your dream last week, wasn't I? And the woman goes, yes, you were. And he explains the dream and explains what the meaning of it was and why he was there. So we can get messages from our spiritual teachers here on earth. And I think this is very interesting for people. So, don't dismiss those things if you've got a spiritual teacher. And very similarly too, I believe we also get messages in our dreams particularly, and in our inner feelings sometimes, from the highest beings of all, from the gods themselves. Now, I'm not saying God, I'm saying gods, because I'm saying that some beings get to a point where they go beyond the normal realms of the afterlife into the highest realms possible. But they are such advanced beings that their thoughts can penetrate all worlds. These are like the angelic beings that some talk about, or the gods of old, and they take different forms. These are highly advanced spiritual beings that connect with us. So sometimes that also acts as one of our spiritual guides. What are the signs that a spirit guide is trying to connect to you? Now, some of the signs that there's a connection trying to happen may occur simply by your desire that you're feeling in yourself to want to connect with the spirit world. If we're sending out thoughts to the spirit all the time, those thoughts are going out and acting as a sort of a radar to ourselves, a transmitter rather. And the spirit world will pick it up. They'll see our thoughts like a lighthouse and will connect to us. So if we're sending thoughts out all the time, our desire to connect to the spirit world is kind of a sign that you may connect. And you may connect on different levels. Like I say, you may connect with the spirit people that you know, and you may find that your destiny is to go a bit further and work as a medium. But the important thing is that we don't get carried away again with too many thoughts, because it's very cool, isn't it, to feel that you're special. It's not just now, but it's always been the case. I've known lots of people who have no mediumistic power whatsoever, who claim to be mediums and make a big thing about their mediumship, and feel kind of, oh, you're a medium, are you? Yes, I'm a medium. And yeah, I know for certain that they've got next to nothing of any power. So again, we've got to distinguish between what is our ego doing this work. We don't want to be some cool, clever person, because actually the path of mediumship, if you knew what it was really like, you have to suffer on that path of mediumship so you can have resonance with others. But anyway, so we've got to keep the ego at bay. So a sign is that the ego is not involved in your desire to become connected with the spirit world. Also, signs might come sometimes through dreams. Dreams are a very powerful way for the information from outside of the rational mind to get to us. Our rational mind all the day is acting like a filter. It's like a lens that's closing down and only lets so much into our mind at any one time. And when it opens, our mind opens, we become more aware of the vibrations of the world, and the spirit world in particular. And when we're asleep, that kind of loosens a bit. We open up a bit more. So it may come through dreams. You may start having dreams of people that you know that have passed over. And those dreams will seem very real indeed, but with no heavy upset emotions. You mustn't get confused with grief dreams, which might be where you dream of someone because you're trying to cope with the distress of having a bereavement. These kind of almost matter of fact. It's almost, oh, hello, Nan, you're there. I thought you were dead. Oh, how come that's the case? It's almost like that in the dream. And sometimes even in waking life, these things happen as well. And sometimes, perhaps less importantly, we get signs and synchronicities. Because again, there's some great big realms to misinterpret this. But we may get a symbol or a sign or something that seems to indicate to us something that is so personal and connected with maybe someone that we knew in the spirit world, that it's more than chance. So the world starts to change around us a little bit more. But most of the time we start to get a feeling, we start to get a feeling that the spirit people are around us. Not a bad feeling, not a negative thing, it's not paranoia, it's just a nice, comfortable feeling that someone's there with you, close to you, and helping to connect. I'm going to tell you a bit more in a moment, but let me also suggest to you my book, What to Do When You're Dead, because all of these ideas are explained in detail in this book. And I talk about the afterlife, what the afterlife's like. I talk about how some great souls died, how people died gracefully sometimes. I talk about near-death experiences and all sorts of stuff that I'm sure you'll find of interest. So that's my book, What to Do When You're Dead. You can order it if you click the link at the top of the page. Okay, so now let's look at how we connect with those spirit guides. So I was mentioned earlier that the spirit guides have to bring their vibrations down to us. Now there was a very famous spirit guide called Silver Birch, and he spoke through the mouthpiece of a great journalist in his time, Maurice Barbanel, who was a spiritualist that could go into trance. Now Silver Birch did he talked in trance through Maurice Barbanel, and most importantly, he gave a lot of proof of who he was. He gave a lot of indications about who he was and how all this mediumship works. And one of the things Silver Birch said is that in order that he's not this character Silver Birch, he used the spirit shell, as it were, of an American Indian, and connected through that spirit shell to help himself to bring his vibration down to our level. Because in the spirit world, this like hierarchy of spiritual beings, and as a person progresses and as a person becomes more spiritually awake, we gradually move up the chain, as it were, to the higher levels of spirit, in which the highest levels of all, we're almost non-existent. We're almost just part of the great oneness of existence, of the great divinity, right? But so those higher beings can bring themselves down to our level. We can't move ourselves up to them because our energy is so heavy, as it were. But they have the ability to come down to our plane. That's why holy people can sometimes be incarnated on this earth plane. So when they come down to us, they have to slow their vibration down. They have to bring it down to a lower level to get to us. And we simultaneously have to raise our vibration to get to them. Now, we raise our vibration by, first of all, getting rid of all the clutter in our mind and going into a deep, deep meditation. And that meditation, which would take me ages to explain the whole details of this, but that meditation might include things such as opening your chakras, opening your auric body, feeling your spirit beginning to enhance and open, and we use all these techniques such as breathing sometimes and deep meditation to take us into a state of higher awareness. So our vibration raises, their vibration comes down, and then we meet. We get a connection. And that's basically how it works to connect. It's as simple as that. If we feel we have raised our vibration, they brought their vibration down to us, this closeness comes in meditation. And it can come for anybody, because if you do meditation, you will find that you can start to get this connection with the spirit world. Now, in my own case, I worked in a circle, and there's not many development circles around nowadays, but I was very lucky and I was in a very, very good circle when I first sat years and years ago in my early 20s to develop mediumship. And in that circle, we would sit and we'd go into a deep meditation. And when you have a whole group of people working together like that, you get a special sort of energy there. You get a special sort of energy. It's like the sum is greater than the parts. It's like we have this pool of energy to work with. So we can fully let go and drop into this state of malleability, this state where you're completely let go and just completely open, totally open, which is hard to achieve if you're working by yourself, because you're safe, you're open, you've got other people around you that are also helping you. And then if you let yourself drift in that state, because you let go of all these concentration exercises and things like that you might do in meditation. It's a pure openness. It's a pure receptivity to spirit. It's a sitting for spirit, we call it in spiritualism. So you sit and your mind opens, and it's like you can almost like hear like a conversation in your head of somebody talking to you. Now, it's not like a mad, crazy man's conversation. It's like just the voice of somebody. Or you might get the impression that somebody's close to you. You might start to feel the impression of someone near you. You might know there's a man or a woman near you, and there's always a good feeling with it, a sense of security, a sense of knowing that you're safe. And these are when your guides and your mentors from the spirit are drawing close. And at first you might just get bits and pieces. You might not know anything about who or what they are. And then we may see them in a form. So one of the first that came to me in my meditations when I was first developing in spiritualism was the classic American Indian. And I thought, American Indian? Oh, that seems bonkers. You know, here I am sat looking at American Indians. I must be mad, you know. But I was told, but don't worry about the form. You know, we are beings that have gone beyond the normal form of all human beings, but this is the form I come to you so that you can recognize this is me. I have no form. I'm a being of light, the Spirit said to me, but I come in the form of American Indian, and in this form you will understand that I'm here for this, this and this. And he helped me with particular aspects of my mediumship. And then others will come in different forms in I have an Indian people and all sorts of people were coming, Indian people and all types of a clown as well, and all types of people would come. But again, I was reassured that don't get distracted by the form. Understand that this is our vehicle, this is our way of connecting with you. So in a way, it's going back a bit to that idea of that unconscious that I was talking about with Carl Jung, that a form was created that a being could work through. Right? Not just my own unconscious, but another being could work through to me, okay? Or they were perhaps using an astral shell of some sort, of a discarded part of a personality of the aura of another being that was still floating in the etheric, that they were able to use as their vehicle to talk through that entity. And that's how I understood it, and that's how you do connect with the spirit world. So you need really to be in a circle. I have described that in my other book. I don't know if I've got it here. No, Psychic School. I'll put a picture up. But in my book, Psychic School, I talk about how to sit in a circle and develop your mediumship there. Because if you do this, if you've got the support of others around you, you can go deep, and it does allow, that energy also allows the spirit people to come close, right? So I've talked also there about the dangers of self-delusion, though, because, you know, when we're doing this, you know, we don't sort of jump into this idea, I've got a spirit guide and things, you know, and it's a big deal, you know. We were taught to gradually let the spirit guides develop with us over many, many years, you know. And now when I work, I don't even notice them when I'm working. You know, I don't get obsessed with this idea, oh, I've got this Indian working with me, or I've got this Egyptian working with me or anything. You know, all that's now in the background. And I just know sometimes when something comes through, I think, false teeth. I know I've got that joker in the spirit Joker guide working from the spirit side. But it doesn't matter who's giving me the information, because I'm just a channel. So those that get overtly obsessed with the details of who their spirit guides are often worry me, because they have lost the way. They've gone into that state of unconscious fantasy, of self-delusion, and have become the old Harry Potter to this world again, you know, and it's not like that. So always keep a sense of keeping your feet on the ground when you go into the spirit, as it were, because you need to be realistic, you need to question these things, but still be open enough to be able to accept it. Don't let yourself fall victim to your own fantasies. Don't fall victim to other people's fantasies too, because I've seen people get sucked into these whole things about spirit guides and get completely lost in it. So be sensible, be aware, keep your common sense, and then really once you've got the connection, the mediumship will come through and the guides will fade into the background. Sometimes you'll get proof of it, Sometimes you'll get proof, and in circles you get proof from others, because you know you're connecting with something, and someone across the room will say, "Oh, I see you're talking to such and such a person. I just saw them walk in." You know, you get lots of confirmations like that. But most of the time, this is for the realm of mediums. In normal life, connect to the people you love in the spirit world. Don't worry about why you have to have a spirit guide, some high spirit guidance. Listen to the common sense that comes through from those that loved you in this world. And also, in your own thoughts, our own conscience is also a very, very powerful force. In fact, that's higher than the spirit guides themselves. The conscience is our divine connection with the highest level of our highest self. And from that conscience, all sorts of important intuitive information can come. You bypass the guides through the conscience, as it were, because the conscience is more than just that ability to say yes or no to something, or good or bad. You know, it's higher than that. It's like the divine part of yourself that knows already, that enlightened part of yourself that's there in the background somewhere. So we can connect to ourselves, our higher self, in this whole idea. You can look things like that up in the some of the ideas of Sri Aurobindo, who's also a very interesting Indian teacher who talks about the over self, right? Anyway, hope you liked that, and if you do, don't forget, if you're interested in finding out about your guides as well, you can always ask another psychic. So you might want to perhaps have a look on my website and talk to one of my psychics that are working there. Some of those are pretty good with this type of work, but you need to find it for yourself, really. So anyway, if you are interested in getting a reading, come to the website, and we've got lots of special offers on at the moment, so you can get your readings online. And don't forget, also, another little plug for my book, What to Do When You're Dead. That'll give you a lot of ideas about the spirit world, what it's like, and how, and also some ideas about how it connects. A lot more details. For example, what do the spirit people do to connect with us, not just what we do to connect with them. So there's lots of interesting ideas there, based upon, I feel, clear and sensible advice that's provable, not just fantasy. Okay, thanks for following us. See you again. Don't forget, click that little bell and follow us, and we'll get updates every week with what's coming up on this channel. Okay, see you soon. Bye for now.